It's taken quite some time to get this air duct off, drilling all the welds out. Worked out that I was averaging about 1 hour for every 30 centimetres, so many hours getting this off. Half the challenge is trying to find out where the actual centre of the weld is, so you can drill it out properly. So that's what caused most of the delay, because of the rust over the edges of the flange. It's very hard to identify where you should drill. Anyway, it's finally off. The condition of it, I won't know fully until I get the rust off it. I mean, it looks alright there, but this is the top end that sits up against the bonnet, so there's rust all along there. I imagine there will be holes in that once I get the rust off, so there will be repair sections in there. The bottom here is not too bad, that's to be expected, and inside is just a good coating of rust. So I'll get all that off. I'll start wrapping this in vinegar wrap to remove the rust, so that'll take some time, but by the time I get that all off, then I'll know what sort of repairs I have to make to it. In terms of any damage, it looks pretty straight, so I won't have to repair any damage to the panel, just rust repairs. Now, the condition of the vallance. It does have significant rust repairs to do. You might be able to see that clearly. A bit too much shine off the panel, but apart from the holes that are meant to be there for mounting things, there are large holes there for rust. So there's rust all around this area, rust in around there, rust of course right along the bottom. Surface rust in here, I don't think that's too bad. I'll get that off with vinegar, but there are rust repairs required along the top section here, so that's similar to the other side. In terms of panel damage, I'm sure this area here will have to be addressed. It's sort of a bit wavy in the way it's been bent. I mean, there are bends in the panel. There's one that should go through there. That's at least evident on this side. So that's not too bad, but along here it just seems out of shape. As for the other end of the panel, up where it meets the heater, that's just all surface rust. I don't think there's much damage there, but once again I'll get some vinegar wrap on this and remove the rust, and then work from there. I've just taken this out of the vinegar wrap. It's got most of the rust off, but there are still parts in there that either have paint, some of it may be the stone guard in around the edges there, and there are some pieces of rust which are still on the seam where the air duct was, so I've been chipping those off. It's not so much rust on this panel, but it's rust remnants from the flange on the duct, so there's a few areas like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go over this and probably with a sanding disc and get some of the remnants of paint off. See if I can get some of these areas of rust back to bare metal. If anything can't be done, I'll then put a bit more vinegar on there to remove any remaining rust. I'm not worried about these areas here. There's bits of rust along there still, little pieces of rust, but a section of this is going to have to be cut out, so not too worried about that. I'll take maybe some out of there, but along here that's just going to have to be cut out anyway. The other side, I'll just flip this over. Now, I haven't applied vinegar to this side yet, but there's been some spillover on the edges, and it's cleaned up some of the areas on this side. A lot of this is just remnants of undercoat, which I may start just sanding that back and see how much surface rust is left. Down in here, of course, not too worried about, that's got to be cut out, and also up on the top there, not worried about that because that's got to be cut out. But other areas, I might as well, while I'm cleaning the other side, I'll clean this back with a sanding disc and see how much work needs to be done on it. So I'm hoping not too much. Now, for anyone that hasn't seen my method of rust removal, I mentioned I use vinegar, white vinegar. Where I can, I would use a trough so I can dip things, but when you've got something the size of an air duct, that would require a very large trough, which I don't have. It also require lots of vinegar, which would really be a waste. So what I do is use a process of applying a spray of vinegar over paper towel. I'll just take this off. This has been sitting for 6 days. So what I do, just get this off. Okay. So what I do, wet the panel with the vinegar, spray bottle here, put paper towel on and then wet the paper towel. Now there are 2 layers, sometimes 3 layers of paper towel in there, and each day for 6 days is what I normally start with. I will go through and respray this to make sure it stays damp. I cover it with Glad wrap, that's what this is. I've actually got very large rolls of Glad wrap that I can use. In fact, I reuse it. It doesn't have to stick, it's just a nice piece of plastic that will cover the paper towel, and it also keeps the moisture in. Now, you saw I use pegs sometimes to hold that on, and what I also do is I cover the whole thing just with cloth so there's no sunlight getting in on the surface. After 6 days I remove the paper towel. Sometimes it just comes off, other times it sticks. Just remove some of that. Quite messy. It's still very damp. It was soaked yesterday. Okay. You can see there's layers of rust on the paper towel. Sometimes it's very thick, as in there, sometimes it's thin. The paper towel also goes over any paint or undercoat that may be left on the surface. That doesn't matter. Okay, get that off. Right, so on the 6th day I take that off, and then what I do is remove the residue. Now at the moment you look at that and you would say that's still heavily rusted. Well, it's actually not. There still may be some bits of rust there, which means I have to put some more paper towel on and do it for a few more days. But what I do now is damp that with vinegar again. With a stainless steel brush. And I'll rub all that crusty rust, and hopefully most of it will actually be removed. Okay, I'll keep doing this and do the whole panel, but just that's what I'll do over all the area that I've had the vinegar soaking on. I'll rub that vigorously with this wire brush, then I'll hose it off. Now I'll show you after I've finished cleaning all this what it looks like when it's hosed off. Alright, you can see how that's cleaned most of the rust off. Still a bit in here, a little bit there. Up on this end, of course, it's still got a bit of paint. I won't worry about that at this stage. I'll just get the little bits of rust out. And up the other end, once again, there's more paint up in here and little bits of rust in there. So what I'll now do is just apply paper towel and the vinegar to the areas that remain with rust, and I'll give it another probably 4 days and then repeat that process. And then, because of the shape of this, I find it easier to do it in segments. So I started off with the bottom, then I've gone this side. Next, after I've cleaned the rest of that rust off, I'll do this side, which I haven't done yet. So that was the condition of the panel prior to the vinegar. And you can see it's even sort of crusty rust up into here too. So that'll all come off. Just takes time, a bit of patience. If it doesn't come off on the first go, do it again. It'll eventually come off and be nice and clean. If I leave this at the moment, it will end up with a very fine orange coat of rust just from the moisture in the air. So what I would normally do, and probably what I'll do with the bottom section here, is use some phosphoric acid just to kill the emergence of that light rust. If you don't do that, it'll start to rust up again, but once you put that phosphoric on, it will stop the rust for months and months. Anyway, got a bit more work to do on this one. I'll put more vinegar in. I can put that aside while I continue on the vallance. Now, I haven't removed the rust from this side of the panel, and I'm about to put another vinegar wrap on this side, mainly around the areas of rust. I just want to be able to delineate the areas of good metal from bad metal, so I'll mainly put it around here and up around the top there. On the other side, I've already had a vinegar wrap on that. It's mostly cleaned off, but once again I'll just do a little bit more around the front and around the top edge just to make sure I've got the right cut lines for the repair section. So won't take long, it'll only probably about a 4-day soak, so I'll just do that before I start to work on this panel. Now the rust has been cleaned off the vallance, and now I'm looking at the damage. Most of it's around here, small holes and so on in around here, along here where the air duct goes. It's not through, but it's very deeply pitted along there where the flange was, so all that's going to have to be repaired. All the bottom there, of course. So there'll be one large piece, or maybe a couple of large pieces. All this is solid. This has got to come out. In terms of other rust, I knew it was along the top here, so basically all of that will come out. I'm not sure whether I'll take it to here. I don't think so, but I'll check that. There's a little bit of damage I've got to repair, and I'll do that first. It's bent here. That should be flat. I've got to re-straighten that. The gentle rise of the panel here is mostly intact. A little bit of damage here and of course down in there, so I've got to straighten that out. I've got to do that before I can do the actual repairs. So a little bit different to the other side. The other side I was able to put one large piece in here, but I don't know whether that's totally necessary on this side. Certainly there'll be a large piece, but these bits here are only very isolated. The rest of the panel is solid, so I'll look at how I'm going to do that. So there's a little bit of thought we'll have to go into that. But other than that, it's just a case of now straighten the panel and then start the rust repairs. I've managed to get the general shape back into this panel. Not worried about the finer imperfections because I've still got to do this repair section, and that will provide some additional warping to the panel. So at this stage it's straight enough to do the work. The repair section's just been cut. That's how much I'm going to replace. I've now got to fit that and then weld that in place, so that hopefully won't take too long. Once that's done, then I'll continue to work on this section of the panel and straighten it, and also this raised edge here. It's not too bad up on the top, but on the bottom here it's a little bit distorted, so got a bit of work to do with that, but that shouldn't take too long. Now that's been nicely tacked into place. The distortion is minimal. A little bit of reshaping to do in that fold there, but I'll do that when the weld is done. So now I'll go ahead and seam weld that. Finished welding this piece in place, so it's worked out well. No need to do any further work on that at the moment. I've now turned my attention to the front of the panel, which is this horrible piece here. Now at this stage, at minimum, there are 2 repair sections to go in to this section. There's one up here, which is basically where the flange from the air duct goes. I'll need to cut a piece out of there. And then there's this bit. Now, either I do this whole section, that's one option. The other option is that I've actually got some good metal in the middle here. The other option is I do that in two pieces, so basically a piece there and then another piece slightly across. I'm not sure whether I'll do that. I'll give it some thought. It just may be easier to do the whole piece. So I'll keep this, I'll keep the whole, I'll keep that section. There's solid metal around that, but not that much. So most of this would have to be cut. So maybe I do that whole area. So anyway, give it a bit more thought. The panel is now reasonably straight. I've had to reform the area where it rises. That's where I've marked that with a pen. That's almost right, a little bit more work. This is now flat, so I've now got a better template here to make, so I can get the repair section done. Anyway, this stage, possibly 3, but maybe 2. One very large one and one smaller one. Now I've decided to do one big repair and then a smaller one up there. It is larger than the other side, but it should be manageable. I've still got to trim it more. I've got to cut it back a bit further around there. A little bit of trimming on the rear edge as well. So it's almost there as a repair section. I haven't taken out the damage underneath. I'm waiting till I get this piece the size that I want, and then I'll start to mark out the panel underneath and remove all the rust. So anyway, one big repair section. It'll make it, I guess, harder to weld but better to finish the welds, because otherwise I'd have to do at least 2 sections in here, and then I've got the problem with aligning the finished panel. So this way, one big piece, and it should go in okay. Alright, the repair section's been tacked into position. Everything's worked out fine, no problems. So what I'll be doing now is to continue to put more tacks in, and then I'll seam weld it. So hopefully I won't get too much distortion, but I'll see how I go.